Hello, welcome to another exciting journey of SAP learning. And today we will see about an introduction about me, and then we will talk about what is ERP and what is SAP is all about, and then who can learn this, how do you learn this. So these are the topics basically we would cover it. So welcome once again. My name is Nagraj Patil. I have 15 plus years of experience in SAP consulting. Then I have completed more than 15 end-to-end greenfield and brownfield implementation. So I do have expertise in a large-scale global template building, then business readiness and architecture assessments. Then I have come with an expertise of digital transformation and business consulting. And at the same time, I am certified in S/4HANA, sales and distribution module, material management, and transportation management modules. So now we will see, even before we start this journey, it's important to understand who can learn SAP, and then how do you start the journey of SAP basically. Okay. In my opinion, anyone can learn SAP. Anyone who has the basic qualifications, like if you are engineering or an MBA or a graduate, can learn an ERP tool. Okay. Is it really hard to learn? Uh, no, it is not at all really difficult. But at the same time, it is a challenging also to learn SAP, because it is not difficult, but at the same time, it is not so easy also, because you need to have a proper business knowledge. If you have that skill, that's more than enough to be expert in learning an SAP. Okay. The second thought is that do I need to have a coding background? Do I need to know any kind of a programming language? No, because in SAP we have a functional and a technical side of it. So it doesn't need any kind of uh, a technical expertise, or I would say the programming expertise, to become an SAP consultant. So functionally, you need to do a configuration, not the coding part. You can learn it. And what is the future of learning SAP? Okay. SAP exists from more than 50 years almost now, and there are multiple companies in the world who are using SAP. In fact, most of the Fortune 500 companies are using SAP. So this is quite strong product. So hence, this is has a long-term future. So you don't have to worry if you get into SAP. And will there be a future after 10 years? Yes. Even in my opinion, either you have future even after 20 years of your experience. Okay. So these are all the basics, I think, questions, or anyone who starts to, or who wants to start learning SAP, or who wants to start their journey in ERP. These are all the basic questions. Will you will have these questions. So I hope I have answered those, some of your questions if you have. Okay. Now, what we will also see is that before we start learning about what is an ERP exactly, it's also important to understand how a organization functions basically. Okay. So I have a bit of a slide here on an Excel sheet where, okay, now just let us understand how a organization or any company, we can take example of any of the companies around you. Just to name few, we have Unilever or a Bench or Audi, BMW. These are all the few companies I have listed. Likewise, there can be many companies. You can just think or imagine the companies around you. Okay. So if even the smallest company, for that matter, will have a legal entity, or it is nothing but a company, what we call it. And then typically a companies will have employees for sure. And then there are various departments or the teams which would be part of this. Okay, so sales is one such department. Then the companies will have a factory or the manufacturing plant. Then they would have warehouses. Then they would have inventory. Then they would have shipping and transportation, or the logistics part of it, supply chain, I would call. Then there is purchasing. Then we have finances, like the persons who is managing credit, and then there will be a team to manage finance. But there can be many more. Okay, so there can be quality management team, there can be R&D. Okay, I have listed few of these things. Okay, so uh, if a normal operations in these companies would be, if they are selling something, uh, a person who is selling a product, say suppose if he is selling a product of mobile phone example, mobile. Okay, this is a product, and then there is a sale of 10 quantities example. Now a customer X is ordering. Okay, customer X, maybe customer X is ordering this mobile now, and at the price of maybe 150 USD per mobile or per piece. Okay, now uh, what happens if this person as a customer comes, and then the sales department is responsible for creating an order. Okay, now and the customer wants this to be delivered maybe 10 days or 5 days after the date of order. So delivery would be the customer expectation 5 days after date of order. Okay, now uh, if in a hypothetical way, what we will do, okay, we'll take the order, and then we will check the inventory, and then okay, we say that okay, we have 10 pieces of this product. And then also what we would also check is with the people responsible for shipping and transportation, we say that okay, this has to be sent to this particular X customer to an X location. Okay, and then it has to be delivered in so and so. Now you get all these confirmations, and then based on that we will also confirm the order to customer. And at the same time what we would do is we would also check the credit limit of this customer. If he is an existing customer, so he would have a certain amount of credit available, or you would give him a credit maybe 5 days after his delivery or 10 days after the billing. So you might have those credit terms agreed with the customer. Or if the customer is new, what we would say is that okay, you pay first and then you take the delivery, cash on delivery. Okay, or the advance you will ask him. Then once you deliver, the finance team is responsible for taking the payment. Okay, now this is one such scenario, or a single case where you could manage all these things in the offline. So but just think, if you have hundreds of products, or mobile phone is one, then you may have monitors or a TV. If this company has multiple products, okay, so they may have 100 products example. Okay, say I would say 100 products. Now so this one, how you manage this, because there will be orders every minute. Okay, every minute there can be 15 to 20 orders or 100 orders, and then this sales team, the group of people who are entering these orders in sitting in a 10 different places across the country or across the world. Is this is practically possible for everybody to call an inventory, and then someone goes in the warehouse and checks every time he makes a count and tells them that okay, this much is the quantity which is available. Okay, you can confirm for this customer, or there can be 100 other customers ordering at the same time. So this is impossible, right? Because this is, you need to have the salesperson needs to know the inventory in a real time, and system should be able to confirm him the order whenever the customer is ordering. And also system should able to tell him that okay, this product what you are requesting is not available for you to fulfill this particular date, but it will be available after 10 days for sending this customer. So this kind of so based on that, the sales team can tell to the customer that okay, this product is not available at the moment, but we will make sure that we will deliver it after 10 days. Okay. Now how does this system confirms? Because you have already put the orders to your factory where they are manufacturing it, or if they are not manufacturing it, you may buy it from your vendor and then you deliver it to your customers. Okay. So this is the amount of the information which flows in any typical organization. Okay. So just think, uh, this is there are the large multinational companies where thousands of orders or thousands of transactions are done. So I have just given you the example of a sales because this is easy to correlate. Just at the same time, you think about the procurement also. Okay. So the procurement team is responsible for buying the raw materials or the finished goods and buying the direct and indirect materials, what we call it as, for a company. Okay. So even they have hundreds of vendors who are supplying goods to the factory, the raw materials which are required to make the finished goods. Okay. So is this procurement team is also at the same time having the number of purchase orders, and they need to follow it up with the multiple people, and also they need to follow it up with inventory for the receipt of the goods from the vendors, and then also they need to make sure that whether they are paying their vendors on time or not, because to have the better credit history with that vendor. Okay. So this becomes impractical if all these things are not connected to each other. So this was exactly the problem in the olden days, okay, where everybody has their own software. So if finance used to manage their accounts in their own way, they might be using pen and paper, or some companies might be using the softwares which are only specific to finance. Then the credit team is using their own application. Then the procurement is using their own software. Shipping is using their own softwares. So with this, the greater disadvantage is that the information is not available in real time, and at the same time, there is a lot of time and effort and energy which is spent by just talking to each other, or what do you say, just to see, this is the problem actually. So life without ERP and then life with ERP. Without ERPs, there is no collaboration for sure. Meaning that nobody is talking to each other because there is no real information available. Okay, and with life with ERP is where uh, you are collaborated way of working, and then there is a real time data. Okay, so this is a pictorial representation. I just wanted to show you that. Okay, now this is where is the problem where the concept of ERP came into picture. So now you must be getting a question that what is this ERP is all about? Okay, now so this is exactly the problem what I stated now is to address this kind of a non-collaborative way or information not passing to each other. To address this kind of a problems only, the concept of ERP is evolved. So this is not the new concept. Okay, so this exists from decades together, maybe dated back in 1950 or 60. So because I do not exactly know the date when this problem or when this ERP concept came into market. Okay, so this is the concept or the fundamentals based on which, so where man, machine, everybody works together, and then there is a collaboration across the different teams across the geographies. Okay, so that's where the concept of ERP has evolved. Okay, so now, so what is this exactly? Is this is the concept. Now, how do you address this problem basically? So now you have seen the life with ERP and then the life without ERP also. Now this is what is, with life with ERP in a just pictorial way. If you see, everything is connected here because there is a flow of information is passing on to each and everybody, and then everyone has information, and then they work in a collaborative way. So in turn, it improves the productivity, and also it also improves the revenue to a organization basically. Okay, now in the next section what we see now is that okay, now we have understood you have a fair idea about what is the problem and why did the ERP concept came in, and also you must have now understood how our typical organization works, because if you are someone who doesn't have an experience in the domain of sales or anything or a procurement, so you must have got the fair idea how this organization works, and then why we the concept of ERP came into picture, and why do we need ERP, and then what is the advantages of ERP, and then what is the disadvantage of ERP having no ERP. Okay, so now how did the world address this problem of collaborative way of working? Okay, now there are softwares available in the market, so which came in dated back in 1970s or 60s. So there are different people or different organizations who came in to address this kind of a problem basically. Okay, so how did it is been so the ERP is a software. Okay, so there are software companies who came in developing the enterprise resource software. So in my next slide, what I have done is I have listed the few of the vendors, or we call it as the companies who addressed the problem of solving this ERP problems, and then they came up with SAP ERP, ECC, what we call. SAP is a company, and which is a German company, which SAP founded in 1970 or 71. Okay, and then Oracle is one such company where even Oracle offers a ERP solution. Microsoft also has a product for Dynamics, and there is Epicor is another company or another product which offers this solution. And also at the same time, there are many more. In fact, I haven't listed it out here, but I have listed out the one which are major, and the names are few, basically. Okay. But in the ERP market, SAP is the dominant player because of the so many advantages they have. And you will also learn why SAP has an edge over many other ERPs available in the market, and then why SAP is dominant in the market. So that's where, coming back to my point, where if you have a question still that why SAP, we have any future in SAP or not. So yes, SAP has a bright future ahead because of it. The product is very strong, and many people are using this software. So that's where you are making a better decision by learning an SAP. Okay, so now with this section, you must have understood a fair idea about what SAP is about, and then what is the ERP, and then basics about SAP, and then who are all the ERP vendors available in the market who are providing solutions for ERP. Okay, now what we will see is, let us see just a few basic details on SAP and its basics. Okay, so as I just told you that about a bit about SAP, so SAP has a full form. It is systems, applications, and products in data processing. So it's the largest business software company in the world, which offers the ERP solutions. Actually, so it has more than 100,000 installations, meaning that people are using this SAP. The companies which are using this SAP, and 41,000 plus me, it can be many more now. Okay, so then more than 120 countries. So it is widely used across the globe, and everybody is using. Most of the big largest companies, like you name few: Walmart, British Petroleum, Shell, Unilever, or any Apple. These are all the companies who are using SAP. Okay. Now, since you have taken a step to learn SAP, and initially I was also telling us the beginning of this video that okay, do you need any kind of a programming language expertise or not? So SAP is actually just to coming to that point now. So SAP is divided into two fundamental modules. So one is SAP functional module, and another one is SAP technical modules. Okay. So now we would also see what are the different modules. So, okay, now the focus of the area of yours is we will be learning about SAP functional modules, and then also we will also get in details with what are all those different modules and what are the technical modules, and then who are going to work on these, and then what is the specific about the functional module. So we will get into details. Now let us see what is the functional classifications or the solutions available. So we will not spend much time on this because I have the different slides into details on this one. Okay. uh, the functional part of it. Okay, so functional part of is you have financial, sales and distribution is a module which we will be learning in detail about that in future. Now material management is one such module supporting the procurement part of it, and production planning is another module. Then supply chain management, human resources and HR related thing. Then likewise we have technical modules like ABAP or ALE basis. These are all the things which are available. So what we would do is now we would focus more on the functional modules in SAP. Okay, just a bit of a details here. The functional modules are sales and distribution, which is responsible for people who are doing sales and distribution of the products or goods or services. Okay. Then material management is one such module, which is responsible for procurement of the products or raw materials. So the procurement can be external procurement or internal procurement. Production planning, who it is responsible for planning all the production related activities. Then quality management is one such module which is responsible for management of the quality. Plant maintenance is another such module which is used for the plant management related activities within the plant, and the customer service related activities are taken care out of this module. Then human resource, we do have another module. Then financial modules like FI is for accounting, your AR and AP controlling is another module. Okay, asset management is one such module. Treasury, and then SAP do have industry specific solutions which are tailor made for the certain industries, which we will get into that details in the next slides. Okay, I hope you must have a fair idea about what are the functional modules and then who can learn this. Oh, okay, at the same time I would also emphasize that who can learn this modules. Okay, just to, I'll not spend much time on this, but just to give you a brief about that, if at all you have an idea about how the sales happens, or if you have an idea about how procurement happens, or if you are working already in the sales, then you can take up this. Or if you are an MBA who have done marketing in your MBA, also can be one option. But you need not to have this prerequisite because it's not mandatory to have this prerequisite. Even the same goes with procurement also. You need not to be a procurement expert to learn this, because as when you start learning SAP, you will understand those concepts. Okay, basically maybe you need to have spent a bit more time on understanding few of the concepts, but if you know already, so it is little easier to connect the dots. That's the whole point I was trying to make. Now let's also see the technical modules. Okay, so SAP has its own programming language called ABAP. So ABAP stands for Advanced Business Application Programming, and it is, if at all we need to make any changes or any code related changes or an enhancements we need to make in the system, it is done by the ABAP consultants, or these are the programmers who would be doing this kind of coding part. Basis is another such module which is responsible for administration part of it, and then related to performance tuning, all such kind of things are done by basis folks. Okay, there are few other modules which I will not get into the details of that because that's not the intent, but just to remember for your information. Okay, now we must have an idea about and then also who can do this ABAP modules or basis modules. If you have a bit of a programming person, if you are really interested to make your career in the programming side of it, so ABAP is the suited modules. Okay, basis is also the similar way. If you need to have a technical skills a bit, then you can become a basis consultant. Okay, now what we will see is that a bit of very basic things which I will anyways explain it in my next videos, how this architecture of SAP. We will see the focus of this is that SAP works on a three-tier architecture. Okay, so we have a presentation layer and an application layer and a database layer. Okay, I would just not to confuse, if you take an example of your mobile phone or an application, okay, and then if you see anything you do on your front end mobile phone, so which you are getting certain information on your screen. So this is exactly in the same way, even it this is the three-tier architecture, okay, or a client server architecture, what we call it as. So that's based on that this works. So functionally you don't have to worry about this, but you need to just have a basic idea about, we have a database where all the information is stored, and then the front end where we execute our transaction. So this is being pulled from the database layer, from the application layer. So that's it actually. Nothing more than that, because as and when you get into an expertise of these areas, you will understand more about it. Okay. Now also let us focus on the certain industry specific solutions, which I was mentioning it earlier. So what happens is that certain industries work in an XYZ way. Okay, maybe those processes are specific to only to that industry. Okay, so SAP has a tailor-made solutions for these kind of industries. So there are more than 18 plus SAP industry solutions are offered, which are tailor-made for certain industries. So few of them I have listed out at here. Okay, but we will not get into the details of this because that's not the intention of this course. Okay, and now let us see evolution of SAP, how it started. Let's see the evolution of SAP. Okay, when it started, SAP started with R1, so that's called as real-time one-tier architecture. And then SAP came up with in 1979 with R2, that is real-time two-tier architecture. Then they came up with SAP R3, it is in 1992, which is three-tier architecture. So here the R stands for the real-time three-tier architecture. The R2 stands for real-time two-tier architecture. R1 stands for real-time one-tier architecture. Okay. And then 2000 SAP came up with my SAP, so with the NetWeaver technology, with all World Wide Web concepts. Then 2004 it came up with the service oriented architecture, and then 2011 onwards SAP came up with the HANA. HANA is a database of SAP. Okay, we will not get into the details of HANA, but it is also nice to know what is HANA. So just in a brief, HANA is SAP's database. Okay, so that's it about it. So I will not elaborate much on that because it will be confusing for you at this point of time, but just to know, this is as an information only. Now let us also see the what are the different versions of this ERP system. Okay, so the current version of SAP is SAP ERP, but earlier it was like they used to come up with SAP 4.6, 4.7, 5.0, 6.0. Okay, I have worked on 4.7, 5.0, and then 6.0. After certain point of time, SAP started stopped the naming the releases with 6.0 or 7.0. It is not 7.0 is not available. So what SAP started coming with is enhancement pack, EHP1. Okay, it just basically these versions are nothing but how we get our software upgrades in our mobile phones. It works in the simple way. Okay, so EHP1, EHP2, EHP3, EHP8. Okay, likewise, these are all the enhancements packs which SAP releases with the new features. Okay, and we just spoke about what is HANA also. Like it is S for HANA is what is the concept which came in. So this is these are all the different versions of S for HANA which has it. I'll anyways cover about S for HANA in a brief in a different sessions. Okay, but I will not get into the details of S/4HANA because we will be diverting from the current session actually. Okay. Now also let us understand uh, how the landscape of SAP, if you really get into work with or you start your consulting background. So we will have a development server and the quality server and the production servers. Okay. Now This is what is fundamentally a landscape will have, but it is not restricted to only three boxes here, but there can be multiple boxes here. Like there can be two or three quality servers, or there can be two development servers, or we can have a clients within that. Okay, so it's you can have it, but this is generally a every company will have three landscapes, but they can have multiple SAP boxes here. Okay, but always the production system will be one. Okay, now I'll go with the reverse order. What production system is? Production system is the system where the end users or the users or the business users will do their day-to-day transactions, like creating the sales orders, creating purchase orders, raising invoices, entering the payment related details. Also, this is basically the core of their day-to-day transactions. Okay, now what quality system and development system does is it will be used by the consultants to develop the software for these users. So any changes which we do, we will generally start with the development server, then we would do an unit testing here, and then we would move this to quality. So in the quality server, we will do an integration testing or a system integration testing, what we call. It's nothing but because with SAP there can be multiple third-party applications may be integrated, so we call it as integration testing, or also the integration between the different modules of SAPs, like integration with sales with finance, integration sales with the purchasing team, purchasing module. So that is where we the information is sometimes which may flow from procurement to sales or sales to procurement. So that's where we term it as a integration testing. And also whenever we do any changes in the system, we would ask the users or the super users to do a user acceptance testing, what we call it as acceptance testing. Once we have a sign off from the users on the acceptance, then only we will release the changes to production, actually. Okay, now how this changes goes in, so in SAP we have a concept called transport request. Any change which you do, and it always starts with development to quality, quality to production. It is never reverse. Okay, this is it never is in the reverse fashion. It is always from development to quality, quality to production. Okay, at least from production to quality it will never reverse. Okay, so whenever we create any changes, we will release it as a transport request, or what we term it as TR. So that's one unique number which get generated, and which will have all the changes related to whatever you have executed. And that is the change whenever we do in development, we will move it to quality. From the quality, once the user says that they are okay with whatever has been developed, then we will move those changes to production servers. So this is the TR concept in a very basic or in a brief way. Okay. Now with this, you have a brief idea about uh, now the questions on how who can do learn SAP, how do we learn SAP, why do we need to learn SAP. Then also you have a fair idea about what is an ERP, and what are the advantages of having a ERP, and then what are the disadvantages of not having ERP. Also you must now you have fair idea. And also we saw that what are the different vendors or the softwares available in the market to address this problem. And then we also saw the brief about the basics on SAP, what is SAP, why it is came into picture, and then what are the architecture of SAP. And then we also saw the landscape of SAP things. Okay, and also we saw the different modules in SAP, and different solutions which is offered by SAP. The last but not the least, since you are learning SAP journey, so in my whole session you must have observed one thing. I never called SAP. It is always SAP. Now since you are starting your journey with SAP, so it is always you should learn to address it as SAP, not as SAP, because SAP has an acronym. That's why we all call it as SAP only. So henceforth we will be calling it as SAP, not as SAP. So thank you.